Tony Cucurella then, who is Chief Engineer, I believe. Chief Engineer, Trackside Engineer. So many different titles at Ferrari. Either way, very important man and a lovely guy. Ferrari really hoping to get back on top of things this weekend. We remember, of course, everyone does, the victory in Malaysia, high temperatures. The James Allison car, as the Lotus of old was, as the Ferrari of today, is seemingly really good with their tyres in heat, could play into their hands this weekend in the extreme heat that we're experiencing. But as we've just seen, the extreme heat can just as quickly become a torrential downpour. So fascinating to see how that one pans out. Another team expecting a good weekend here is Force India. They had a great weekend in Silverstone with the brand new car, and the race was basically just for them still learning about a brand new car for the first time, putting it through its paces in a race. Here's Sergio Perez on his expectations for the weekend here in Hungary. Moving on to this weekend, car. Looked great at Silverstone despite having minimal testing, minimal knowledge of it. How hopeful are you of a good result this weekend?
Very, very hopeful. I think there's no reason why we shouldn't aim for good points this weekend. So really looking forward to it.
How much did you actually learn in Silverstone, particularly in race conditions of the new car?
We learned a lot, especially on my side. I was not so comfortable with the car, so we learned quite good things about the car.
Relentless track here, lots of corners, corner after corner after corner. Will the car suit this kind of track?
I think so. I think we should be good in this kind of track. Obviously, Silverstone is a very different type of track, but I expect to be quite good around here.
There's always a lot of talk about new Grand Prix venues and having government backing and countries or Grand Prix being used to show that countries are open for business and governments using the Grand Prix as a means of showing those countries are, as I said, are open for business. This was one of the first really to do that. 30 years ago, this is the 30th anniversary of the Hungarian Grand Prix. A Grand Prix was held in this country for the first time behind the Iron Curtain. Although communism was on its way out in Hungary, and obviously would be by 1989, 1990, this was still a communist state. This was still under the communist regime, under the Soviet Union. One journalist who has seen it all really when it comes to Hungary, Hungarian-born, now a native of San Francisco, Mr. Andrew Frankel, a man with so much experience in this sport, so much knowledge, and we thought coming here this weekend on this very important weekend it would be I think apropos to have a little chat with Andrew about the history of this race and what the guys found the very first time they raced here all the way back in 1986. Andrew, it's the 30th anniversary this year of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, Andrew Frankel, now a US citizen.
This is true.
But born here in Hungary, and you've seen it all really here in terms of the Grand Prix. Tell us about what it was like here in 1986 for that first race.
Well, in 1986, it was, it was sort of all right because the cars did race. But it was very exciting because the government was still communist. And for them to give permission of what is basically a capitalist race was a bit extraordinary. I don't think they knew what they were doing, but to be fair, they let it happen. It's still happening after 30 years, and if you think about all the races that are not happening any longer, the list is very long. I think only Monaco and Monza have been around longer. Spa, of course, but Spa had a few interruptions. 30 years without interruptions, I think that's good.
It is, and it's a very popular place. It has been from day one, but it had its issues in the first year, as I understand it, in terms of what wasn't allowed to be filmed.
Well, this is perfectly true. You see, all the teams came, and first of all, they had tremendous problems, and I've never mentioned this before, so this is a totally new one. They got to the border, and they phoned me, a guy called Alan Woolard, worked for Bernie, and he said to me, help, 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 the trucks cannot get through. Because after all, these were, if you like, NATO trucks, and coming into a Warsaw-packed country, you don't just sail straight through. So I ran into this ministry where I had a friend, and I said, please, 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 can you arrange for some sort of a special sticker, and so we can put them on, otherwise there'll be no race. And God bless the Minister of Transport, he arranged for the stickers, we ran up to the border, we drove up to the border, stuck these on, and the lads kept it on the windscreen for many, many years to come.
Amazing. But this place, where the circuit actually is, the track obviously has always existed in this lovely natural bowl, but these fields were once used for other purposes.
Well, funny you should say that. In 1986, we were, Murray Walker, BBC, Hungarian television, we're all going to send up a helicopter, a whirly-bird if you like, to take some pictures from overhead. And a gentleman, a rather stern-looking gentleman, arrived wearing one of these, which just happens to be a Russian hat. Actually a general's hat, and he said, "Nyat." And that, I'm afraid, was the end of that. We couldn't send up a helicopter for many, many years to come until, of course, they, you know, the Russians went home, the Hungarians joined the other side, and now anybody can go up.
So what was there that they didn't want to be shown?
There were some rockets pointing towards the west, Austria, Germany, and all that. And there's a supermarket there now. It's 3 miles. You can just about see the supermarket from here. But they were not too anxious for anyone to see the rockets, which from their point of view, I suppose you can understand.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's something amazing about Hungary, isn't it? I think that kind of the resilience of the people, you know, doing this before the Berlin Wall had fallen, before the end of communism, doing something different. You know, it's often said that the uprising here was what sparked the fall of communism in the first place. I think something very representative of the Hungarian people.
Well, I was in the uprising. I'm not saying that I was the biggest hero, but I did have a gun. I did participate. I did help to pull down Comrade Stalin's statue. That was fun. Me and another sort of 15,000 people. That was so exciting, I cannot tell you. We were hoping to be free. Unfortunately, the Russians came back with big tanks. And here's the helicopter we're talking about. The Russians came back, and then it was unfortunately goodbye to freedom. I escaped 56, 57, lived in Britain, ended up in the United States, San Francisco, wonderful, wonderful place. I'm very, very lucky. But it's wonderful to be back here, even though I did have some grim tasks. For instance, when we lost Ayrton Senna, I had to interview Prop Watkins. And so it wasn't all happy sailing, but I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm delighted that it's getting great showing, if you like, in the United States. I'm an avid viewer when I'm not here, and may you just keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure as always to talk to you, my friend, and it's a pleasure to be back here once again for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thanks, Andrew. Fascinating insight from Andrew Frankel, and some very kind words from him at the end there. We can't race in Hungary this weekend, and we can't do anything. We can't start the weekend off without, of course, commenting on the very sad, very tragic passing of Jules Bianchi on Friday night. I woke up to the news on Saturday morning, and it didn't really hit me until Monday. I think a lot of us thought we'd come to terms with what was going to happen. Those of us close to Jules and close to this sport, I think, realised that it wasn't ever going to end well, and it was a matter of time. And with that in mind, there is perhaps some comfort now for those closest to him that they can begin to grieve. I got into this sport 21 years ago when my hero Ayrton Senna died. And I didn't know how to cope with it as a 13-year-old, and I found solace in the words of journalists and broadcasters that helped me understand what was going on, and that I wasn't alone, that other people were feeling the same thing. And one of those journalists that helped me understand has become a dear friend and my mentor, and I phoned him on Monday because I wasn't doing very well. And I just wanted his advice, really, and he relayed a quote which I think is really good, and that is that the pain of grief is the price we pay for love. And I think that's very true. Jules, and the thing with Jules was it didn't matter if you'd ever met him, whether you sat at home and you watched this on TV or you had ever had the pleasure of meeting him. He was such a lovely guy that you could love him. So if you are feeling grief of his loss, you have every right to, because he was the most lovely person. Always smiling. He will be sorely missed. And I think one of the guys today who gave the nicest tribute to him is another guy who's always smiling. A guy who used to live with him. I will leave the final words of today's Paddock Pass to Daniel Ricciardo.
He was one of the first mates I had in Europe when I moved over in 2007. We spent quite a bit of time in Viareggio in Italy together, and one of the first memories was eating piadina. So it's like an Italian, I guess, sweet, like it's like a bread, pita bread sort of, and they did down there was this place they did really good with Nutella and coconut on top. And after one, I got a sweet tooth, but I was pretty full, and I was like, okay, I'm done. And Jules went in for a second one, and yeah, it was just, he was a very highly regarded driver already at that time, and I was thinking, okay, this kid's just had 2 Nutella Piadinas. I was like, maybe I could relax a little and not be so serious on myself.
He had a great smile, didn't he? Is that what we'll remember most?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. He was, obviously it's sad to look back on photos and that, but yeah, every photo I look back on, he had a lot of grace, I guess, about him, and for how competitive and let's say highly regarded he was very humble, and just a really nice demeanour about him, and I had some nights out with him as well, and he was good fun. It was good fun to hang out with, and obviously he's going to be missed a lot.